Okay, today we are watching a fairly short program, but this should be one that is action-packed. That's because its title is the Near East Crisis, and this comes from 1956. So what crisis was taking place in the Near East in 1956? To be honest, off the top of my head, I can't think of one, so I am looking forward to learning about it today. I know I already told you guys this is going to be a short one, but I really mean that. This is a 4-minute long video, so let's see how long we can stretch that into. Okay, Universal International News reports the Near East crisis. Invasions complete. UN will take over. All right, hang on. So before we even get into it, I don't know what we're talking about still. Still, what is the invasion complete? Near East crisis. Invasions complete. UN will take over. I don't know, man. That's got to be like Near East is the Middle East, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's just like an old antiquated term for the Middle East. So a Middle Eastern crisis, 1956, the invasions are complete. What invasions, man? Does this have to do with Israel? UN will take over. Oh, man, I don't know. It might have something to do with Israel now that I think about it. Oh. Near East crisis. I don't know. Let's watch. All right. I bored you all enough with me trying to figure it out. Let's actually figure it out.
A smoking Port Said greets British expeditionary forces as they arrive.
A smoking Port Said greets British expeditionary forces. All right. So a smoking Port Said. I think this might be like the 6-Day War or whatever. This might be Israel taking over the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Oh man, I feel bad not knowing what this is yet, but I feel like I'm not in the mindset yet.
For an assault landing. The city had been consistently bombed for days before the amphibious operation. Oil dumps go up in flames under the pounding, and the harbor is littered with sunken vessels, some bomb victims.
Oh wow, look at that. That boat is completely sunk. Wow. Or I guess it's not completely sunk. I guess it's like 50% sunk, but the hull is definitely underwater. That shit ain't floating again.
Others scuttled by the Egyptians.
Hang on. So yeah, the Egyptians are being attacked. Okay, so this must be Israel, right? Or the British. Oh man. I feel like I'm remembering something now. Yeah, like a Near East crisis. This is like a British, Egyptian, Israeli thing. I don't know. Let's learn, I guess.
Amphibious operation. Oil dumps go up in flames under the pounding, and the harbor is littered with sunken vessels, some bomb victims, others scuttled by the Egyptians. Egyptian airfields and key military points.
Oh, this is cool. The Port Said Aerodrome. That's like, that's a really cool sign. I feel like you won't see signs like this anymore, but it's cool to see the Arabic word for Port Said Aerodrome. Like if anyone knows Arabic, what does the title actually say in Arabic? Does it say Port Said Aerodrome? Aerodrome can't be a word that was ever originally in Arabic. So I'm curious how they write a word from a different language like that. You know, like which of these Arabic symbols is aerodrome? Like how do you make aerodrome, you know?
Were occupied by British and French forces, but
British and French forces. All right, so this is the British and the French against Egypt in Port Said, which is where the Suez Canal is. So this is definitely about controlling the Suez Canal. That's interesting.
Easy stillness lay over the Suez Canal zone.
That's so funny. Yeah, he just said exactly what I just said.
The ceasefire was in effect, but the question of withdrawal led to stalemate, an Anglo-French refusal to pull out troops until the arrival of a United Nations police force.
Anglo-French refusal to pull out troops until the arrival of a UN peacekeeping force. That's interesting. So the Egyptians, it seems like, were trying to take control of the Suez Canal, which I guess is fair, it's in their country. But I think, yeah, the French built it and the British were like keeping guard over it. And I think they wanted to maintain that, or they didn't want Egypt, I think that's it, they didn't want Egypt having control over the Suez Canal because then one of them could be favored over the other. Or even worse, they could have closed the Suez Canal to both of them and only let German ships or something in. I think this conflict comes from the British and French not wanting the Egyptians to have control over the canal. I never really knew that this happened. I feel like I do remember hearing about something like this from Real Life Lore video, but I don't quite understand this historical event yet.
Force. As the force, composed of Canadian, Colombian, and Scandinavian units, was being mustered.
Pause. Canadian, Colombian, and Scandinavian units. That's the UN peacekeeping force is Canadians, Colombians, and Scandinavians. That's so funny. That's such a mishmash.
Tension in the Mideast crisis continued.
The Mideast, all right, he called it the Mideast. So yes, the Near East and the Mideast are the same things. I'm calling it. I feel like Egypt is Near East, whereas Middle East is like Arabia, even though they're right next to each other.
Continued, unabated. With the canal already blocked, the sole remaining aim of the Anglo-French forces was to begin clearing the key waterway.
Dude, the Anglo-French forces just sounds so wrong. Like, the fact that the English and the French are teaming up, like, that's how you know we're in a weird corner of history now.
And in the area they held, back up Egyptian police in maintaining order and preventing looting. The invaders marked time while the diplomacy of the world through the United Nations General Assembly strove to reach a settlement to satisfy all sides.
Okay, so this is Port Said, and you can see like the damage that was done to Port Said through this battle or whatever that just took place. That's very fascinating. I really am unfamiliar with this historical event.
And remove one of the gravest threats to peace in recent years.
Okay, yeah, so that was just one news story in this newsreel. So there's going to be a few more news stories. That was just one of them. So the first news story was the Near East crisis. The second news story is the world protest. Mobs riot over Red Hungarian slaughter. Interesting. This is also a historical event I've never heard of before. World protest. That's interesting though, because I've lived through a few world protests. Like you could argue there is currently a world protest going on for, Gaza and whatnot. So it's interesting to be hearing about another sort of world protest, this time in regards to a mob rioting over Red Hungarian slaughter. I wonder if they're against the Red Hungarian slaughter or they're rioting for the Hungarian red slaughter. I don't know. What's actually really funny about this, hang on, what year is it? 1956? My mom was born to a Hungarian woman, I think 2 years before this. And she was brought into Austria. So this is like, the events I'm about to watch unfold in Hungary right now is actually like affecting my family history now, which is interesting that we're in that realm of history at this point.
A wave of outrage and protest sweeps across free Europe in the wake of Russia's bloody stamping out of Hungary's anti-Soviet revolt.
Interesting. So it's Europeans protesting against the Russian actions that took place in Hungary against Reds, which I guess are communists. So were the Russians stamping out the communists in Hungary, or were they stamping out like the capitalists in Hungary? I'm going to go back and listen to that statement again.
A wave of outrage and protest sweeps across free Europe in the wake of Russia's bloody stamping out of Hungary's anti-Soviet revolt.
Anti-Soviet revolt. All right, that makes a lot of sense. So the Hungarians had an anti-Soviet revolt, and the Russians stamped it out bloodily. And then the rest of free Europe is what we're seeing here, is protesting against Russia, stamping out the anti-Soviet protests bloodily. Interesting. All right, I understand now. So yeah, that is actually what caused my biological grandmother to flee Hungary, I think, is the Russian presence, the Iron Curtain coming down in Hungary. So my grandmother fled Hungary because of, I think, what we're watching right now. I'm not quite sure, but I have to imagine this had a part in her life.
In West Berlin, torches lit a mass meeting of thousands. In Paris, angry crowds attacked the stone fortress that houses the French Communist Party, setting fire to the massive structure during a 4-hour riot.
Wow, the French Communist Party. Yeah, so this is the moment where communism wasn't hated enough for it to not have some sort of office or presence across the rest of Europe. But we can see people starting to turn on communism right here. This is Europeans wholly rejecting communism in real time, pretty much.
Holland, after a nationwide moment of silence and sympathy for Hungary.
It's also interesting to see Europe in protest like this because nowadays I feel like Europe is also heading in a direction like this. Not because of communism anymore, but even still I'm starting to see a lot of similarities between what's going on here and what's going on in Europe currently.
Crowds stormed Communist Party headquarters in Amsterdam. one of the most orderly cities.
Communist Party headquarters. See, it's so bizarre that there were even Communist Party headquarters to begin with, honestly. Like, it's pretty wild that those even existed.
In Europe saw angry fighting, a fiery demonstration that summed up the continent's reaction.
Dude, I love seeing this photographer. I love how instant photography was for capturing historical moments like this. Like, this photographer is just going straight up to the history taking place and taking photos, as he should be because he has a camera. That's like the responsibility of a photographer, really. But it's so amazing to see it happening, in 1956 in this random protest. To me, it's a random protest, I guess.
That summed up the continent's reaction to the Red Army's sack of Budapest.
That's interesting. I never really understood how Europeans perceived the Iron Curtain and how they really lived with it or managed with it. And as we can see, they didn't really do so that well. They really definitely took notice of the Iron Curtain being in place and did protest against it. So this is good. This is good for me to understand the mindset of European people during this time. Okay, so that was also the entirety of that story. This is just a real quick news flash, I guess. We're already moving on to the next story. We're 2 minutes in. We're 2 stories down. We got, I think, 2 more to go. News in brief. That's what we're doing now. This might be like a rapid fire news segment. This might be interesting, actually. News in brief. Like, we might just get news after news after news here. New Jersey. Oh man, what happened in New Jersey? New Jersey, 1956. If I could say what happened, I would be so proud of myself. But there's no way. There's no way I can even guess it. What happened in New Jersey in 1956? Let's learn.
A private twin-engine plane attempting a landing at a New York airport in the murk of dusk crashed into an 800-foot television tower a short distance from the Hudson River.
Wow, a plane crashed into a tower a short distance from the Hudson River? What? No way. That's crazy. I hate to laugh. I'm from New York. This has meaning to me. I'm so shocked that is this news story that I'm learning about. A plane hit a tower in New York. That's crazy. Or I guess New Jersey.
A section of the wing can be seen jammed against the tower.
Oh wow, they got the footage of the plane in the tower? That's incredible.
Following the crash, the plane gyrated 7 blocks and smashed into an apartment house, sheltering more than 100 persons.
Really? Hang on. So the plane crashed into the tower and then went spiraling into a building? That's bizarre. That's crazy. What about the images that we saw of the plane in the tower? Was that, I don't know. I don't know.
Flaming gasoline added to the hazard as wreckage from the plane mingled with debris from the shattered building.
It's so ironic that I'm listening to a news story. It's just nobody who witnessed this news story knew the irony. It's dramatic irony that only happens in hindsight. It's like, I can't believe I'm listening to this news story about this tower being hit by this plane right next to, where that happened again 50 years later.
The pilot, the plane owner, and 2 tenants in the building died in the tragedy, and 17 were injured. So weakened was the tower that 2,000 are evacuated from the area as workmen cut away the top portion which falls against the side. The 15-ton segment dangles like a sword of Damocles.
Wow, this is cool. We're actually getting to see real life destruction as well. They're taking this tower down because that plane crashed into it. That's pretty cool. I think this is actually a fun little news story.
Until the long job of dismantling the tower is complete.
Huh. Interesting. That was a fun little news story. Now we're moving on to Washington, D.C. I never would have been able to guess that news story. Can I guess this one? What's happening in D.C.? Who is president? Oh, God, it's 56. Is it Eisenhower? Is Eisenhower president? Or is it, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to make myself look so stupid for not knowing that.
The nation paid tribute to the dead of America's wars and to the more than 22.5 million living veterans.
The nation is paying tribute. What's so funny, I know exactly where this is. I have been here so many times, or at least I'm pretty sure I know exactly where this is. This is in Arlington Cemetery. This is right next to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This is actually the other side of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I think that's what you can even see behind this building. This is a little Coliseum area. There's seating all throughout here. I'm pretty sure I've been here 1,000 times for my job in the past. I'm pretty sure this is the Arlington, I don't even know what it's called, but Coliseum almost.
As wars and to the more than 22.5 million living veterans. Traditional Veterans Day ceremony.
Hang on, but who? Oh, is that Woodrow Wilson? Who is that?
I think it looks like Woodrow Wilson.
Were held in Arlington National Cemetery, where James Stewart, film star.
James Stewart, that's so funny. Wow, because I recognized him. I was like, I know who that guy is. Oh man, yeah, that's Jimmy Stewart. That's hilarious. I honestly should have been able to recognize him. It's a Wonderful Life. He's done all sorts of movies. This is like the Tom Hanks of this era pretty much right here. I wonder if James Stewart ever played Woodrow Wilson. Why did I think that was Woodrow Wilson? That's not even, if I know what time period it is, it doesn't even make sense for it to be Woodrow Wilson. But I don't know. I just thought it looked like him.
Film star and Air Force Reserve Colonel said that this country must never neglect its sacred obligation to honor those who died in battle. Veterans Administrator Higley laid the presidential wreath on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Yeah, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Yeah, this is exactly, I know exactly where all this is right now.
Valor and sacrifice of past wars against the background of a new grim threat to peace.
Background of a new grim threat to peace. That's an interesting statement as well. I think he's referring again to the Soviets in this context, which, very interesting. We just saw protests against the Soviets in the previous news clip. So I guess I get why that statement was made.
With a world in
San Francisco, did they just finish the Golden Gate Bridge? No, I feel like they finished it even earlier than this. Yeah, not the 50s, right? I feel like they finished it before World War II even. Maybe not. That would be cool. That would be cool if that was this news story. I can't guess. I have no idea what this is going to be about.
Crisis, the Navy goes on the alert and disperses its forces ready for instant action. The carrier Yorktown receives a full complement of planes as she makes ready for sea duty.
Huh. I wonder why. I wonder what the reason for this is. It's 1956. I think that's after the Korean War. I think the Korean War started in the 50s, if I learned properly from the Crime of Korea. I don't know how long it went, though, I guess. I guess it could still be the Korean War, but I figured it'd be over by now.
With her deck full of fighter planes, the Yorktown will be a powerful striking force.
Wow, look at these fighter planes. They all have folding wings. I've never seen fighter planes like this either.
In any trouble spot. Supplies pour aboard as the Yorktown speeds operations for her departure for whatever assignment lies ahead.
Red Mule. Interesting. I wonder what that is.
And there's no telling where that assignment might be.
There's no telling where that assignment might be. So not even they know where they're going. They're getting prepared for a conflict that might happen. That's interesting. I guess that fits in with the Cold War era, right? Like we didn't really know where there was going to be conflict. We just had to be ready for anything, anywhere.
But to those left behind, it is a moment that never ceases to be poignant.
Okay, that was it, right? That was the whole news clip. Wow, that was 4 minutes. How long did I take to watch those 4 minutes? Let me know. Was that too long? I mean, I guess there's not much to say about all these. I wish I had more information on all of them, but I don't think that's the point. I think this was supposed to be one of those really fast news broadcasts that just gets people caught up with the news. And I think the reason a lot of these stories are missing context is because the people who made these knew that the people who consumed these news reports already had that context. The people who were alive during this time already knew that stuff was happening in Hungary. They already knew, what was the first one? Oh, they already knew there was conflict between the French and the British and the Egyptians. So you didn't have to explain that to them. But because I'm watching this, 70 years later, I'm kind of missing some of that context. I have some of it, I think, but not quite all of it. So I do wish I got more explanation for all of these stories, but at the same time, I understand why I didn't get it, because this was meant for an audience that already had the context prior to this. Yeah, that was an interesting little newsreel, though. What I find interesting about these is just seeing what stories existed in the news landscape at the same time together. You know, like at the same time Port Said was being bombed by the British and the French, there were revolts about the treatment of the Hungarians under the Soviets. You know, like even though these are completely unrelated events, watching newscasts like this helps me piece these events together, at least chronologically. These events are contemporary with one another, even though you could learn about them completely separately and never need to have overlap between your associations. Knowing that they happened at the same time gives you a better understanding of the world during this time. It's not just understanding one story, it's understanding how the world felt or how the world was during this time, what the energy of the news was, what was being reported, what was happening in the world. So even though there were a lot of very short stories in this one, I feel like we got a more whole picture of what was happening around the world at this time. Or at least we got a good glimpse of some of the events taking place during this year. I wonder if these are like the biggest things to happen in 1956. I can't think of any other historical events that took place this year. So maybe these protests were like the biggest protests of the year. Maybe this conflict in Egypt was like the biggest conflict of this year. Either way, I think learning these things together helps you construct a better mental chronology of all these events. So yeah, I very much appreciate getting to watch this, even if it was a little short, even if we didn't really get to learn a lot about each specific story. Altogether, these help build a better image of the time period. So yes, I'm happy we watched this. I am a little sad it was a little shorter than most of our other programs, but there was a lot packed in here, so I definitely enjoyed this, and I hope you all did too. If you did enjoy watching this and you would like to help support what I do here, you can follow the link in the description that'll take you over to the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is where I get all these old films. So if you want to support me, donate to them. And with that, I think we're ready to cut to black.